Do you ever get home after a totally normal day of work or hanging out with friends, and you just feel completely exhausted? Like you haven't just been living, but you've been actively playing a fictional character. Most people just write this off as social burnout, but psychology says you might actually be suffering from a toxic social environment, one that is slowly replacing your true identity with a list of unrealistic demands. Today, we're going to decode the hidden psychology behind everyday human behavior to understand exactly why so many of us feel completely disconnected from our own lives. Living a fake life doesn't mean you're a bad person or a liar. It usually just means your brain has adapted to survive by hiding who you really are. Here are 6 signs you are living a fake life, backed by psychology. Reason number 1 is that you are ruled by the tyranny of the shoulds. Do you ever notice that your internal monologue is constantly telling you what you should be doing? You tell yourself, I should be making more money, I should be thinner, or I should be recognized and powerful. The psychoanalyst Karen Horney discovered that when we are placed in toxic or high-pressure environments, we create an imaginary ideal self to try and meet all those demands. We end up abandoning our authentic desires to chase this fake perfect version. The brutal truth is you can never live up to that impossible standard, which eventually leads to you developing a despised self, where you secretly hate yourself for failing to be perfect. If your life is driven by shoulds instead of genuine desires, you aren't living for you, you're living for society. Reason number 2 is that you are trapped in extreme impression management. Have you ever felt like you have a front stage personality that you show to the world and the completely different backstage reality? Sociologist Irving Goffman compared everyday social interaction to a theatrical play, showing that we naturally use props, settings, and scripts to control how people perceive us. A little bit of this is totally normal, but if you spend your entire day meticulously curating your image, terrified that the audience might see the real you, your personality has essentially just become a performance. You're exhausting yourself by trying to maintain a coherent character instead of just being a human being. Reason number 3 is that you are operating on conditions of worth. Think about when you feel the most valuable. Is it only when you get a promotion or when someone praises you? Or when you bend over backward to help a friend? The famous psychologist Carl Rogers pointed out that many of us are taught early in life that we are only worthy of love and affection if we meet certain strict requirements, which he called conditions of worth. If you are constantly chasing achievements or changing your behavior just to earn acceptance from the people around you, you're living a fake life. Truly authentic people know that their value is a birthright, granted merely by the miracle of existence. It isn't something you have to constantly perform to earn. Reason number 4 is letting your persona take over. Carl Jung, one of the pioneers of psychology, identified that we all have a persona, an archetype that acts as our public mask, hiding the parts of ourselves we don't want the world to see. Now, having a persona is necessary for getting along in society, but the danger happens when you wear the mask for so long that you actually forget the face underneath. If you've spent years hiding your true interests, your weird quirks, or your darker emotions, what Jung called the shadow, just to fit in, you eventually lose touch with your authentic self. You literally become the mask. Reason number 5 is feeling empty even after you achieve your biggest goals. Have you ever worked incredibly hard for something, like a degree or a specific job, only to get it and feel absolutely nothing? The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard explored this specific kind of despair. He gave the example of a man who desperately wanted to become an emperor, pointing out that by wanting to be an emperor, the man was essentially trying to get rid of his actual self. When we chase goals that don't align with who we truly are, even our biggest victories feel hollow because they were achieved by a fake version of us. As Kierkegaard said, the only way to escape this deep despair is to have the courage to be the self which you truly are. Reason number 6 is living to meet other people's expectations instead of your own. Do you constantly adjust your boundaries just to keep the peace? Fritz Perls, the founder of Gestalt therapy, believed that we construct our own reality through our perceptions, but we often mistake our viewpoint for the absolute truth. He famously wrote the Gestalt prayer, which starts with, "I do my thing and you do your thing. I am not in this world to live up to your expectations." If you are terrified of disappointing others, you are subconsciously handing over the remote control of your life. You are acting under the false assumption that your survival depends on their approval. When you finally discard the given values of society and family, you realize you don't have to perform for anyone. The incredible news is that waking up to the fact that you are living a fake life is the very first step to actually finding your real one. It takes a massive amount of courage to drop the mask, but the peace you get in return is worth everything. Which one of these 6 signs hit home the most for you? Drop your number in the comments below. I guarantee you aren't the only one dealing with this exact same struggle. And if you learned something new today and want to keep decoding the hidden psychology behind everyday human behavior, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Stay smart, stay authentic, and I'll catch you in the next one.